Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. You love GabNet. You love the hosts and the citizen panels. In fact, you wish you could take them wherever you go. On your computer, log on to gabnet.net, where our stream is available around the clock. On your TV, GabNet is available on Roku with the same around-the-clock stream, plus all the latest episodes of GabNet programs, old favorites, videos, and tons of celebrity interviews. When you're mobile, we're on your iPhone or iPad with podcasts accessible via iTunes or Stitcher, and that same around-the-clock stream on TuneIn. If you don't want GabNet wherever you go, well, the hell with you. Go ahead, listen to your old-fashioned talk shows that do things in the same old predictable way. Meanwhile, the rest of us will be having fun listening to talk like you've never heard it before on GabNet.
Hi everybody, this is Alex Bennett, and I've had a long and interesting trip. It's called life. And for years, people have demanded that I write a book about it, and while I've been a writer, my main talent has always been that of a broadcaster. Over a year ago, I decided not to write the book, but using my best skill, I decided to tell it. It's called Life in the Passing Lane, and I described it as an audio biography. It's presented in 30-minute chapters, so it's easy to binge listen. And you can access it on the GabNet page by clicking on Life in the Passing Lane and going to a page with every single episode, plus some extras. If you want to access it on your mobile device, that's easy too. It's on iTunes. It's Life in the Passing Lane, an audio biography by me. I'm Alex Bennett.
GabNet needs you. Yes, GabNet needs you to call our live programs and be a part of the citizen panels. It's the most innovative talk format yet, because it's not just one caller, it's a group of callers interacting with the hosts at the same time. Here's how you do it. It's simple. First, download Skype at skype.com. To install it, answer 4 simple questions: first name, last name, email address, and your choice of ID. Then launch Skype, go to Add Contacts, type in GabNet Live, and ask to be made a contact. Then you're ready to be on the citizen panel. If you're too lazy, well, you can always call on the phone at 347-352-0079. That's 347-352-0079. For all the information and a call button for Skype, log on to gabnet.net. At the bottom of the page, you'll find a video on how to call us and how to use GabNet. It couldn't be easier. It couldn't be more fun and exciting. We're new. We're different. But we need you to call. So for crying out loud, call or we'll kill this dog. Don't worry, Fluffy. They won't let you die. I'm not kidding. Call or Fluffy gets it. Oopsie. Talk like you've never heard it before is now talk like you've never seen it before. Alex Bennett's Ramble is now in video. Log on to Alex's Facebook page at facebook.com/abennett every Tuesday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and experience the citizen panel like never before. We put a face to people like Phil, Patrick, Renee, Kevin, Tony, Jeff, Bree, Brian, and all of our regulars. And Alex is there too in his PJs. Just be glad he isn't naked. You can be one of those people who gets seen and not just heard by calling into Skype. For more information on how to Skype us, just go to gabnet.net. You can dress any way you want, provided it's decent. GabNet is now not just talk and not just a pretty face. So why don't you add yours? Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey there. Hi, everybody. It's Alex. Yes. And if we were live, if I weren't live, could I do that? Well, anyway. Hello, everybody. How are you? We'll be here until midnight Eastern time. I don't know why we do 2 hours every night, because when I did like an hour and 15 minutes the other night for New Year's, I got more listeners on one show than I've gotten in a long, long time. Just on one showing on Facebook. So who knows? You know, maybe I should do a shorter show. Maybe that would make your interest in the program better. I have no guests tonight. It's just me and you. And wait a minute, I got a whole bunch of items here too. Hold on a second. Oh, let me see here. I don't know what do I need. This I don't. This I have to save over here. That's my appointment for my blood test on Monday. I just found out that my doctor, he ordered up the PSA test, right? You know, which is a normal, is the test for prostate cancer, okay? And he also ordered up to get the free PSA. Yeah. And what's the free PSA? It's one that doesn't cost you any money. No, it's a different kind of PSA. It's a percentage of your PSA that is not bound to proteins. Ready for that? So if you have 25% or better, your chances of having cancer are minimal. So I now have to worry about two numbers: the number of the PSA and the number. The percentage on the free PSA. And I don't know why he ordered up the free PSA, except maybe he just figured, you know, I'm moving up a little bit, and he just liked to make sure that there's nothing else going on there, you know. But anyway, so I have to do this blood test on Monday, and I have just been a nervous wreck, you know. Why? I have no idea. The worst that could happen is I have cancer and they have to take the prostate out. And I have to put a catheter in my penis, and I won't be able to pee in my pants for months to come. Ask Phil. Phil went through it. Phil says he's okay now, though. That it's not all working right, but it's working. It's not leaking. You know, what happens every week when we go to Costco, or every now and then when we go to Costco, or when girlfriend comes with me, she immediately heads for the Depends diapers, and then at the top of her voice, and you've seen the video of it, yells out, "Hey, Alex, you need your Depends, don't you?" And we all have a good laugh at that. Well, she, a while back, I don't know what happened, but her bladder became very loose. And she would just pee from laughing and things like that. So for a couple of weeks, she had to wear those things. She doesn't wear them anymore. She's fine. But something was going on. I can't remember what. So I would hate to get to the point where I have to use them. And then will she yell out, "Hey, Alex, don't forget your Depends"? And I will say, "Well, thank you very much, because if I had forgotten, I'd be peeing my pants." All right? I don't know. This is the kind of comedy that a guy my age does. You know, I'm just sitting around here waiting to die. That's all this is about. You know, this is the treadmill to oblivion, as Oscar Levant, a great pianist and comedian, once called it. He had a book called Treadmill to Oblivion. And anyway, so I had this test on Monday, and I am just, you know, beside myself on it. Because today I looked and he said, get the free PSA, and then I looked it up and they say, well, doctors ask to get a free PSA when they feel that the number is going up a little bit and they want to make sure that you don't have cancer. So I'm thinking, is he holding something back from me? He seemed to be very positive about my tests, and he looked inside and used his magic wand to look at me. This is sonogram, and all he saw was calcium deposits. So I don't know. So what am I going to do? So girlfriends had to put up with this for the last couple of weeks. You know, me every 5 minutes going, "Do you think I've got cancer?" So we'll know. I mean, I'll do the show tomorrow night, and the next show I'll do will be Tuesday night, and by then I should know what the results of the test were, because they usually come back in a day. So what the hell, you know? Maybe it'll go down, you know. It could go up, but then if the free PSA is at 25% or more, then I'm home free, even though it went up. So, you know, who knows? I'll just get along singing a song side by side. Okay, there's a story tonight. I want to talk about something, and I've talked about this before, but I really today I was thinking about it, and I got madder and madder and madder about it. Okay, let me tell you this story that came in tonight. I was going to do this anyway, but then this story came in, and I said, well, this is a good lead-in to what I've got to say. The current season of a National Geographic Channel series has been put on hold, with cable channels saying today that new episodes of the show will not air until an investigation is completed, until allegations against the show's host are completed. Now, what show do you think it is? And when I saw this, I went, "Oh my fucking God!" You know, I'm getting sick of this. Well, the show is Star Talk. And its star is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, I've had Neil on my radio show when I was at Sirius. And I love the guy. I mean, the guy is just the best. I mean, he makes science so wonderful and terrific and fun, and makes it make sense to people. He does a great job, all right? And I think the world of him. And all of a sudden, I read this thing. So now he is being accused of it, all right? And it says that last December, well, it says AP reports the prominent astrophysicist and popular television personality is accused of sexual misconduct. What does that mean? Well, anyway, last December, National Geographic Networks and Fox said they would examine claims. Fox is going to examine it, because Fox runs Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos, which is going to go up for another, I think they already shot a whole new series on it. And so they would examine claims that Tyson behaved in a sexually inappropriate manner toward two women, the story reports. Tyson was the host of Cosmos, Possible Worlds on Fox in 2014, and a new edition of the series is set to air this year on National Geographic. Well, Tyson has denied an accusation that he groped a woman and denied making sexual advances towards a production assistant at his home, the report adds. He says he will cooperate fully with what he called an impartial investigation. Now, I get very mad at this because, you know, it used to be that guys would rape women and women would then say, he raped me, and nobody would believe them. And that was a terrible time, and the whole nature of that was terrible. But isn't it just as terrible that a person can be accused of something and then not be able to, he has to prove his innocence rather than them prove his guilt, and then there is no court of law. It is just, hey, our lawyers found this to be true, or our lawyers, in our findings, we found these claims to have merit. And a guy's life is ruined. Because somebody, I don't know, wanted to get even with somebody. Maybe he did this stuff, but if what they say he did is so minor, you know, he groped a woman. Okay, did she get over it? I mean, groped a woman. What does that mean exactly? Boy, I don't know. And then he made sexual advances towards a production assistant at his home. Well, didn't that used to be called coming on to somebody? I mean, God knows, you make an advance towards somebody hoping that the advance will be reciprocated. But just because you make the advance doesn't mean the advance in and of itself is of a sexual nature. So, I mean, I just find that this sort of thing is getting a bit out of hand. And I last night was talking about this, and I then thought I'd expand on what I was saying. you've got a problem here. And the problem, well, okay, let's go back to when I was a kid. What does that have to do with this, Alex? You'll see. When I was a kid, and I've talked about that, I've told this story before. One of the things that informed my life, it informed my opinion about things, was what I saw as a 15-year-old. My father was going to go to City Hall in San Francisco to protest the existence or the hearings that were being held in San Francisco by the House Un-American Activities Subcommittee. Now, this was a subcommittee that would go from town to town. It was like a circus. And they would bring people up in front of the committee and say, "Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" And then you would say, "I refuse to testify under the grounds that I should not be asked that kind of question." And they went from town to town ruining people's lives. They're down in Hollywood. You remember you heard about the Hollywood 10? Those were 10 writers who were considered to be communists, who then wound up going to jail because they refused to testify, and they refused to turn over names of other people they knew were communists. And and it was a terrible, terrible thing. And do not mix this up with the McCarthy hearings, which were an entirely different thing. This was a part of that period, but it was not part of what we call the McCarthy hearings. The McCarthy hearings were simply hearings trying to see if there were communists inside the military and inside the United States government. And that was the McCarthy hearings. These were the House Un-American Activities Subcommittee hearings, which were pretty much the same thing, but dealing with, in most cases, show business. And my father decided that this was a terrible thing. And my father I was what I call a red diaper baby, in that he was really a pinko. But he wasn't a communist and never joined the Communist Party. One time I asked him, "Dad, did you ever belong to the Communist Party?" And he said, "Well, I was asked to join." This was back in the 30s. This was right after the Depression. And the idea of communism to a lot of people who were starving sounded like a pretty good idea. And he said, I was asked to join, and I didn't join. And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I felt that the communism was basically, if I joined the Communist Party, I'd be helping the Soviet Union. I'd be really helping somebody else. And what I wanted in this country was more socialistic programs and things like that. So I never joined," he said, "because I didn't see that it was a movement that was positive for America." Okay? But he was a pinko. I mean, he would fight for causes and so on. And so he went down to City Hall, and he said, "You want to come with me?" And I was 15 at the time, and I said, "Sure, I'll go with you." And we go down, and all these people are out front, and they're all, protesting and doing whatever. And I said, "Dad, can I just go up there and go inside and see what's happening?" And he says, "Sure." He says, "I'll be out here when you're through." So I go up to this big room that I guess was used as a courtroom in most cases, and the hearings were taking place. And I just sat there and watched as the people would come up, and they would say to them, "Are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" And they would say, "I refuse to testify on the grounds that you don't have the right to ask me that question, or to question my loyalty to this country." And it was one person after another, and finally the guy comes up, and I know the name. He's the host of a morning radio show that I listen to every morning called the San Francisco Story, and I can't remember his name right now. But it was a show in which every morning he would tell another story about San Francisco and about the history of San Francisco, whether it was the gold rush or whatever. And it was a great show, and I loved it. And as somebody who I guess eventually wound up in radio, I suppose listening to that somewhat informed what I later became in broadcasting and learning to tell a story or whatever. And they brought him up there. And I said, "What's he doing here?" "Wow, there are stars here." And I went, okay, all right. Let's listen to what he has to say. And they said, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And he said, I refuse to testify under the grounds that you have not a right to question my loyalty to this country. And they said, okay, next. And that was it. And I went, wow, I got to see my favorite radio guy. I'll tune in tomorrow morning and see what he has to say, if he has to say anything about this. So I tune in the next morning, and he's not there. And I tune in the next morning, he's not there either. He's never there again. He lost his job. And he couldn't work anywhere else because, why? He refused to answer that question. Now, that committee never came up with any proof that he had been a member of the Communist Party. They didn't. This was not a court of law. And yet this guy was found guilty of a crime that was only insinuated at. But because he was a principled person, he didn't say, look, no, I never was a member of the Communist Party. And, if he was, say, back in the 30s, what was the harm? You joined it and then you moved on with your life. Or you did it because some woman belonged to it and you wanted to get laid, It's like Zero Mostel in the front where he says, she had big tits, and so I went to these meetings with her. So this was something you may have done years earlier, and yet now you are being called to account for it. You may have changed your entire thinking on stuff. But on the other hand, there's probably some reason why you may have been kind of interested in it was because you believed in what America was and the justice of America. And a lot of people considered these hearings to be very un-American, even though they called them the House Un-American Activities Subcommittee. So this guy never worked again, as far as I know. And there were a lot of people across the country in movies and everything else that didn't work either. If you want to see a whole bunch of them finally working again, go see the movie that Woody Allen was in. He didn't write it and he didn't direct it, but it's called The Front. And in it were all actors and writers who had been blacklisted. And, Zero Mostel was blacklisted. And it's a great movie about that period of time and about the injustice of it. So when this whole Me Too thing started to happen, I have always believed, okay, let me just start off by saying that I've always believed in treating women with grace and dignity and decency. I never pushed myself on a woman. I never groped a woman. That wasn't what I was, and that isn't what my father taught me to be, okay? So I've never done anything like that. But, when you're growing up, you're with a bunch of guys, and it's a whole ethic that's created among your little social group. And while I found it wrong, a lot of guys just felt, hey, this is the way things are. Women like you to grope them, or women like you to come on to them, or be aggressive towards them. And they did that sort of thing because of the group dynamic, the group pressure, what have you. And as years went on, of course, they didn't do that anymore. They grew up. They became decent human beings. And, so what's happening now is much like being called to account because you were a communist in the 30s, that because 20, 25 years ago you had pushed yourself on some woman, something you might not do now, you are being called to account for it. And not only are you being called to account for it, you are accused of it. And as a result, your life's work is taken away from you. Now look at Tyson here, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Who knows when it happened, why it happened, or the severity of what happened? But what it looks like is pretty tame stuff. Okay, if it's true. But the problem is that much like those House Un-American Activities Subcommittee hearings, it doesn't have to be true. All you have to do is ask the question, and this person isn't working anymore. Come on. You know, this is the new McCarthyism. We have to be more careful about how we do this sort of thing. Yes, I think that if a person did something terrible to another human being, they should be held to account for it, and they should suffer the consequences. But we don't do that simply by insinuation or by accusation. We do that by proving it as well. And in a lot of these cases, these things aren't proven. You know, I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of Kevin Spacey, and I'm sure he's a creep. I've heard he is. And not particularly a nice guy. And yet, because of that, I will give him the benefit of the doubt until the trial is over. Okay? And I wouldn't mind seeing him act again. I just think that these are all pure accusations against Kevin Spacey. And now, of course, there is a legal accusation happening. But up until now, all it's been is just accusation. Then there was a case of our dear friend Louis C.K. Nice guy, by the way. Good family man. I always liked Louis. Met him on a couple of occasions. He did my show on a couple of occasions. And I really enjoyed him. He supposedly said to a bunch of women in a room one night, "Do you mind if I pull my penis out?" This was something that I understand he kind of did a lot as a joke, not as a sexual thing, but as a joke. And none of these women in the room, by the way, said, "No, don't pull it out. I would be very upset if you pulled it out." In which case, he probably wouldn't have pulled it out. But nobody said, no. They just stood there and watched as he pulled his penis out. Well, that happened 5, 10 years ago. And now his career is ruined. And why is it ruined? Because rather than fight it, he said, "Yes, I did it, and it was wrong of me at the time, and I don't do that kind of thing anymore, and I'm sorry." Hey, case closed. You know, this was another time when you figured this kind of behavior wasn't wrong. You should know it's wrong, but you didn't know it was wrong. Nobody was telling you it was wrong, right? And so you did it, and you're sorry for it. Well, the problem is he apologized for it, and then nobody said, "Okay, Louis, you know, you apologized for it. Hey, it happened quite a few years ago. You're a bigger person than that now, and we'll forgive you." Or we will say that is enough of a mea culpa, as it were. But no. He lost the movie that came out, they wouldn't release. He lost all his TV jobs. He's having to play clubs out in Long Island at 1 o'clock in the morning. And why? Because he did admit his failings, and he did say, "I'm sorry." And you would have thought in some more civilized world, that would be the beginning of saying, "Well, that's very good of you, and we're happy you did that, and maybe this is the beginning of your redemption." All right? But we don't believe in redemption. And we do believe in just simply accusing somebody of something and then holding him to account for it without the definite proof that it even happened. And in the case of Tyson here, of Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's saying it's just not true. He said he would cooperate with everybody who's investigating it. He denied the accusation that he groped a woman, and he denied making sexual advances towards a production assistant. Now, I've got a question that I have to ask, and this is an important question, and that is, what's the difference between this term sexual advances towards a production assistant and just coming on to somebody? And you know, I've come on to women. I've at least let them know that I was interested. Is that a sexual advance? Or is that just saying, hey, I'm available? I just think that we're too close to it. It's resonating too closely for me to what went on with the House Un-American Activities Subcommittee and the accusations against people because they might have been a communist at one time. And I don't know. Because that one situation when I was a kid still resonates with me. I can still see the room. I can still see the people in that room. One of the people in that room was one of my favorite artists in San Francisco. His name was Wolo. He did children's books. And he wasn't accused of anything. He was just there watching it. And again, another personality I really knew and cared about. But I then started to, I got to tell you the final story in all this. My father takes me to the Hungry Eye. I was then 18, and you could get into the Hungry Eye, and they had comedians there like Mort Saul and Bill Cosby and Phyllis Diller, and great comedy club run by a guy by the name of Enrico Banducci. And as we're sitting down to watch the show going on, the show goes on, and he leans over to me and he says, "See that spotlight up there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know who's running it?" I said, "No." He said, "He was a big writer in Hollywood, and he was one of the unfriendly 10. And he refused to testify. And now he's running a spotlight at the Hungry Eye." Okay, folks. To me, it's very similar to what Me Too is doing. Me Too was a movement that was definitely needed. It was a movement that now has been sidetracked by witch hunting. And I just think that you have to be careful when you accuse anybody of anything, because you're going to ruin their lives. And if that's your desire, fine, so be it. But know what you're doing, and know what the past was, and how this tore our country apart at one time. And when people say to me, "Alex, we're living in terrible times right now," I go, no. I got to say that back there in the 50s when we had that whole communist witch hunt thing going on, that was about as bad as we've ever gotten in this country. It's about as far away as we've gotten from being Americans. And I don't want to see that happen again. Anyway, I think I will open up the Skype lines now. I managed to talk for a half hour when I thought I had nothing to say, but apparently I did have something to say. And, I would love to hear from you. But I hope Neil deGrasse Tyson is going to be okay, and that you're not going to have to, wait a minute, I'm trying to do something here, and I can't figure out what to do. When I don't do something for a couple of weeks, I have to figure out how to do them again. Anyway, we're opening up our Skype lines. I just opened them. It takes about at least a minute for people to realize that I've gone to the Skype lines. And then it takes another minute or so for them to be able to dial it. By the way, if you want to dial it the easy way, I redid the Gabnet site, made it even terser and better and more accessible. And there is a button there, and all you have to do is press that button, and it'll turn you on to Skype, and you'll be able to do the thing. Hey, there's Phil.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Phil, how are you?
Yeah. Have you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Never been a member of the Communist Party, but I might do it just to piss you off.
Yeah, I don't think there is a Communist Party anymore, but
yeah, they're in a one-flight walk-up in Berkeley, I think.
Yeah. They ran somebody for president. Harold Stassen, I think, used to run.
No, he didn't run on the Communist Party. No.
No. Who ran on the Communist Party?
Well, there was a thing. There was a party called the Progressive Party, And it was kind of the front for the Communist Party. And I think Henry Wallace, who had been vice president of the United States, ran with them. By the way, speaking of Henry Wallace, here's Charlie Wallace.
Yeah, and he's not a communist.
No, he's not a communist. No. So anyway, yes, Jeff.
Was Wallace also somebody who was a vice president?
Yeah, Henry Wallace. That's why I said Henry Wallace, and he ran. He ran. I did go to a meeting of the Progressive Party, because when I was visiting my grandmother and grandfather in the Bronx, I saw the sign saying there's a meeting down in the basement. So again, I'm the kid. I got to go to meetings. I don't know. Those were the days when parents didn't care where their kids went. Kids did things.
I audited a class at Brooklyn College, an economics class.
Yeah.
And
well, you didn't let me finish the story.
Oh, okay.
So I go down to see what this meeting is. It's a meeting for Henry Wallace for president. It's the Progressive Party is holding a get together, and it's a Communist Party. So yes, I have been to a meeting of the Communist Party, but I think I was like 7 at the time.
Well, it's good enough. I mean, at the Brooklyn College, I was approached to join the JDL, and I did under a false name.
That's the Jewish Defense League,
right?
Yeah,
and that was in 1970, maybe. So Meyer Kahane and all those guys were still running around.
Yeah. Yeah, but all I'm saying is that it was. I don't. I just anytime I see what I consider to be the feeling of the whole communist witch hunt thing happening, it bothers me, and that's why the whole Me Too movement bothers me, because especially look at Neil deGrasse Tyson. He shouldn't have to not be on the air while they're investigating. He should be on while they're investigating. And,
exactly.
And then they can come out with what they find out. And if they don't like what he did, they can fire him. Okay? But in the meantime, he should still work.
Yeah. But everybody is afraid of liability. Our world is ruled by attorneys that are looking to sue and looking to, even if you're right, you're wrong because it costs. Look at your suit.
No, that has nothing to do with suit. It has nothing to do with that at all. They're not worried about being sued. They're worried about the court of public opinion, that if they don't look to be like they are coming down on somebody who's been accused of, let me get my face out of the way of our friend Rob Alfano, who just called. There we go. We'll get rid of my. There we go. Now I'm down in the corner. They're doing it because they just want to look good in the court of public opinion. They don't give a shit about the fact that somebody might have groped somebody. So.
Yeah. Well, they also have these rules of employment about sexual harassment and things like that, and so that might dictate that if someone's accused, they have to, lay them off.
Accusation should not be enough. By the way, hello, Rob, and who is this on the phone?
It's Schmoody.
Hey, hi there, Schmoody.
I'm good. How are you? How come I always call when it's this stupid sexual harassment stuff?
Well, because why not?
Now, has Alex ever groped you?
Oh, I groped her like you.
No, well, when we were together, yes. But, when we would go out, he was an absolute gentleman. I never walked curbside. He would open the door for me. No, he was always a gentleman.
Yeah.
A real charmer.
Yeah, real charmer. And then as she got in the car, I would goose her. So... But,
no, what I used to do is when he'd get out to check the mail, I'd scoot his seat up real close to the steering wheel, and then I'd scoot mine up so it wouldn't look too suspicious.
And I'd get in.
And then watch him try and get in between the seat and the steering wheel.
Yeah, well, but we had a lot of fun together. We had farting contests. You were like a guy, that I was hanging out with, The same kind of thing I would do with a guy, I was doing with you.
Yeah.
Well, not.
We were
I
so
don't.
rude.
What?
I said we were so rude.
You were so rude. Yeah, yeah. So how did you see? I put up our Christmas picture again, our Christmas card.
I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. It's on
That's
my
my
Facebook
favorite.
page.
And now they're all 23 and 24.
Really? You know what we should do is
Yes.
if I ever come out to California, we should go back, retake that picture, but with the same people, with the same kids.
Yes,
You know?
absolutely. Maybe add a couple more.
No, just those three. You know,
That would be funny.
yeah. But anyway,
No, I agree with you on this Me Too thing. It is turning into a witch hunt. If you even say anything in jest to the wrong person, it's devastating.
well, I mean, like for instance, let me ask you. You worked at UPS. I don't know if you're still with them on any level, but
No.
you work for UPS as a woman driver. Okay. Did you ever get problems with that? Were you ever, hassled, or did you know how to just handle it?
Well, actually, I was a manager inside the warehouse, and no, I could dish it out as much, as I could take it. But when there were serious issues, UPS, took it seriously, and not only were men fired, but women were fired.
Wow. Okay. So they always took that seriously, even back then, and this was years and years ago.
Yes, at least in the Oakland building, they did. I can't talk for any other buildings because I'm sure it depends on the management, the upper management that you have in the building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you there for the when the employees got the stock deal?
Yeah.
At that point, where it was a pretty good deal to work there, and I guess they.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, some people
Well,
like you did very well.
Yeah. Well, the worst thing we could have done was gone public with our stock, because after that, it was always about the bottom line. And the reason I left the company is because they were starting to cheat. There were some operations that were turning into the whole Enron situation. They were fudging numbers, and I actually went to corporate about some stuff, and some high-ranking management people lost their job because of it.
Wow. Wow. Do you still have some of that stock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good plan.
Yeah.
I'll be 55 in August.
Yeah.
Fuck, 55.
Hey, I always went out with young chicks.
Yes.
I just turned 79, kiddo.
My mom asked about you because I went up there for the holidays, and my mom was asking about you.
How old are they now?
My mom will be 79 in February,
Yeah.
and my dad is 83.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Well, nothing like going out with somebody whose mother's the same age you are. But what else did I do? Yeah. So anyway, Rob, what do you? Let me ask Rob here. What do you think about what we're talking about?
I don't know. I think I listened to your monologue, and I agree with some of it, and then part of it I say, it's just for so many years it was all one way, sort of like the whole, affirmative action thing was in the 70s, right? And so there's this overcorrection maybe, while everybody right now is looking for, for their day in court, if you will. The women are all looking for. So I don't know. I think it'll settle at some point. It has to settle at some point.
Is justice an overcorrection, or if what was happening was wrong, do we go completely the other way and do something else that's wrong?
That's what usually happens. Is the pendulum swings very far before it comes to the center.
Yeah,
and, it all reminds me of that show Mad Men. And you look at that, it was, I guess, staged in the 50s, 60s, and you saw how the women were treated, and they weren't given promotions, and Even today, they're saying that there's a big gap, a gender gap, in pay and in promotions and so forth in the business, in the workplace.
You know what I heard the other day, though, was a story about The Rock is doing a movie called Jungle Cruise, which is another Disney movie based on a ride at Disney World, right? Mm-hmm. And it's called Jungle Cruise. And his co-star is Emily Blunt. Well, he's making like $40 million to do the film, and she's getting $130. And
you cannot compare.
I know, but they're all complaining. Emily Blunt should get as much as The Rock is getting.
But
bullshit.
But why? It's The Rock that they're going to go to see. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of people
here's the term. Here's the term they use in Hollywood. The Rock can open a film. Okay. Yeah. In other words, you can put his name on a marquee, and it can be a menu from Denny's, and people will go to see it.
Right.
Whereas Emily Blunt has to do a damn great picture for anybody to go see it. She's a good actress, but she ain't worth the same as The Rock.
Right.
And this is something that's completely lost on people.
Now, for instance, even in your business, there's two disc jockeys. One of them gets one salary, and another one gets another. Why? Because one brings in more revenue.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, so why shouldn't The Rock make more? And I'm sure that if I made a movie with Meryl Streep and we had equal billing, Meryl's going to make many millions more than I make because she's the star. She has that star status. And in the case of The Rock, even I will go to see any movie The Rock is in. Mainly because when you go to see it, he sells that film. He makes it somehow it works. It's entertaining. So, this whole thing, Emily Blunt isn't getting the same amount of money. Bullshit, Of course she's not getting
what she gets what the market will bear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like she's working on an assembly line, assembling the same part for the same amount of time and doing the same amount of production.
Right.
That's one thing.
It's like sports athletes; they don't all make the same.
Well,
money.
that movie with Kevin Spacey, where they had to redo all the scenes with Kevin Spacey in it, so they could get him out of the film, and they had to do it within 3 weeks. Well, they brought everybody back to do the scenes they had to do. One of them was Mark Wahlberg, and another one was, I can't remember who was second in that film. I'm trying to remember now, but a woman. And they were griping that the woman only got $100,000 to come back, where Wahlberg got something like $2 million. And they said, it's not equal. Well, the thing was, they signed contracts ahead of time that if there were reshoots, he would get this much, and her agent got her that much.
Well, I had a cousin when I was married to Susan that was an MGM negotiator, and there was that movie Flashdance. Mm-hmm. Most of those people were unknown. His job at that time was to negotiate with all of the actors and actresses that if there was going to be a sequel or anything else, that they had an agreement ahead of time of what they were going to get paid. And believe me, it wasn't very much because nobody had ever heard of any of those actors.
Yeah.
And so that's what they do. And, a deal's a deal.
So, I mean, but Shmoody, it's too bad you don't have Skype, because then we could see you.
I know. One of these days I'll have to break down and get it. But you know what? Most of the time when I'm on my computer, sometimes I'm on Facebook, but a lot of times I'll be doing eBay or stuff like that.
Yeah. You used to sell on eBay, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to fire it back up, because I'll do it for like 3 or 4 months. And when I do that, I pretty much fall off the radar because I'm strictly business. And then once I get a bunch of stuff sold, then I come back and everybody sees me again. Yeah. So now my friends know if I disappear, it's usually because I'm taking care of business.
Yeah.
But you want to hear something funny? Over the summer, my son I'm a DC gal. Sean is a Marvel guy. But, I have the whole Batman collection. So as we're watching it, Sean goes, how come all the bad guys have these? He calls them tookers, which is his code word for hookers. And I go, well, yeah, dude, back in the 60s, We were broads. The only things we could do was teach Sunday school or be a teacher, a secretary, or a hooker. And I think, I hate to say it, but I think the word broad is hilarious. But man, some of my gal friends don't. They have no sense of humor.
Well, you know, my father said about the word broad. This is my father. I always go back to my father because he was my hero. He used to call Betty Davis. He said, "What a broad." And I said, "Why do you use that term?" And he said, "Well, when I use it, I'm using it to describe a woman who is take charge." You know,
Exactly.
Yeah, and that he considered it a very good term. That broad was not just a woman. It was not just a lady. She was a broad, man. She could take care of business. You know, and
lady.
You know, maybe I'm going to want to be referred to as dame.
Oh, gee.
Um,
Kind of a British.
That's dated.
yeah,
I thought it was French. Dame is, you know,
Dom.
yeah,
D-A-M-E is dame, right? In French?
I think so.
Yes.
yeah.
So that's where that comes
No, it's,
from.
it's Madame.
Madame.
Madame. So it's the, you know, I think it has its
Yes.
history there. Which,
Yeah.
so if you think about it, is not necessarily, we think of it as a negative connotation, but in a way, it's just a slang term for a woman.
Yeah.
Dame.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know,
The Three Stooges use it all the time.
but I always liked the term broad, you know, because my father taught me that it was not a bad term, you know. But, you know, I often wonder about terms, you know, that at one time I was, I used to always refer to lesbians as dykes. And the reason I did it is because I had some lesbians say that it was a perfectly acceptable term. That they said that dyke was an acceptable term for lesbian, so far as they were concerned, because it didn't have a negative connotation to it. It was kind
Especially
of,
if they were on bikes.
well, there was a group called Dykes on Bikes, you know. But
They've
you know,
auctioned the San Francisco
if
Gay Parade.
I used it today, I suppose it would not be right. But not be right.
But the word queer was no good for a long time, right? If you called somebody a queer, now it's an acceptable term.
Well, only if you're queer, you know.
Oh, is that right?
I think so.
'Cause, isn't the Q in LGBTQ whatever it stands for queer?
You're
right.
right. You're right. You're right. But then again, you know, the thing I always, I'm sure Charlie can attest to what I'm about to say. I've never been able to figure out why I was being told how I was supposed to teach what I was supposed to call black people by an organization called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, are you colored people?
And not for about 60 years.
And you would have thought that somewhere along the line they would have gone, you know, that's really an antiquated saying. By the way, Tony, pay attention. It's an antiquated saying.
Taking notes.
It's an antiquated saying. And why didn't you change the name of the organization? You know.
Costs money to do that.
Yeah, it would cost too much money.
They'd have to buy new stationery. I don't know, you know.
Signs on the buildings.
Yeah.
Who can lay the coffee down? Give you a break. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pay through the nose.
But, you know, I mean, I just, but as I say, I saw the story about Neil deGrasse Tyson and the fact that they're not, I mean, of all the people, all right? You know, come on. As a science geek, he's my science hero, all right?
I was with you, you know, listening to you before, and then you started going into the whole Louis C.K. thing, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying, you know, sorry, he took his penis out. I mean, he didn't know it was wrong. I mean, come on. He didn't know that's wrong.
No. He did not just take his penis out. He asked beforehand if they minded if he would take out his penis, and none of the women said no.
Well, you know what? I was
They
listening
were in shock,
to over the break. Over the break, I woke up one morning and I turned on the radio, Sirius, and Howard had Silverman. What's her name? Sarah Silverman on, and Louis C.K. came up. It was an old interview from when it first blew up, and she said that we were very close, and he used to just, say, "Can I take my penis out?" And she was like, "I thought it was weird, but he's Louis, and
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I just think the whole thing is strange. I mean, you're brought up not to do that."
But now, unless
you're 4 years old, and you
Probably.
say, you have
Show me
one of
yours
these.
Right, exactly. I mean, you just know you don't do that.
Look, it may be a stunted growth on his part, but the fact was that he would always, and even Sarah Silverman said it, would ask permission first.
Yes,
doesn't matter.
Which gave you the opportunity to say, "Well, I'm not signing up for this. I'll get back to you later after you're through showing yourself to everybody."
Let me see it. Is it like a running joke though? Maybe that's just. He's probably.
Is it acceptable to go into a room of people and ask if it's okay to pull your penis?
Well, okay. To all you guys here, and of course, Schmoody can't see it, but do you mind if I pull my penis out?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't.
Yeah, I can see it because I'm watching it on YouTube, Alex.
Yeah, but you've already seen it before anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like I'm proposing any secrets here for you,
No, nope.
But the fact is that, of course, and you all said no, I don't want you to pull your penis out, so I'm not going to pull my penis out because you said no.
I think he should do it.
You're a sick puppy.
Double dog dare you.
Double dog dare you. Well, in that case.
Yeah.
I did a double dog dare once, man. It was a dare, and I said no, and then the guy said, "I double dog dare you," and I said, "That's it, got to do it,"
That's enough.
Yes, Charlie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the Neil deGrasse Tyson because I don't know if y'all know it, but I was trained in astrophysics, and so he's kind of a hero of mine.
Yeah,
and he the accusations against him are just so minor.
Yeah,
I mean, two of the women basically just said he touched their hand or something. He never even touched any sexual part of their body.
Wasn't a grope?
The grope was in graduate school at the University of Texas when he was a graduate student there. The grope was there, and this was a woman he had a sexual relationship with at the time that she says he groped her.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, how many times have I put my hand on my wife's butt?
Well, we have somebody here on this panel tonight who we can't see, but I've groped her. Right? Did I grope you?
He's a groper.
I mean, that's completely different from going up to a total stranger or some girl that you just saw.
Kathleen, did I ever grope you?
Who, me?
Well, yeah.
So? And did you mind it?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, then maybe you could.
Did I dick you? No.
No.
And not one of them said that when he said no, he kept doing it. The minute they said no, fine. He just, okay, I tried, and then he went on.
Well, also, here's the question. What is the difference between sexually, what was it? What was the term that was used? Hold on a second. I got to go back and get the story. Sexual, hold on.
Charlie, what year was Neil deGrasse in college or in the? Did you say it was?
He got his master's degree in 1983 from the University of Texas. I was already gone by then.
Okay, so that would have been after the sexual revolution of the '60s and
he made
the disco craziness.
It said he made sexual advances towards a production assistant. Now, what constitutes
a
sexual?
He held her hand.
Well, what constitutes
not
a sexual
advance?
Well, no, but a sexual advance would be, hey, it depends on what the person who thinks that was a sexual advance considers a sexual advance. It could have been something as simple as, hey, you want to come back to my place later?
Wait a minute! Don't you have to touch a part of the body that would be considered a sexual?
Right, that's what I always
The way
thought.
they describe it here is that he made a sexual advance towards her. It didn't say he groped her. This is not the one that was groped.
That's not the one. Yeah.
But they made
Is it a sexual advance was a sexual advance a verbal thing?
It doesn't say.
Did he say to her, "Hey, you're hot"?
Well, how else do you?
Do you want to come back and see my science
Yeah,
club?
how else do you?
Can I pull out my penis?
You doing the Louis C. I can imagine this. I'd love to be a fly in that room.
Yeah.
What's going on here? You got
yes, Jeff. Yes, Jeff has a comment here.
Many years ago, I went to Italy with my wife.
Yeah.
And her sister. Sister's the younger of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to Vinci because I was very interested in Da Vinci and all that.
Uffizi Gallery.
Yeah. And so we go in there and we're walking around. And it's not a small museum at that time. But it was great. And we're just walking around and this and that. And Betsy comes over to Pam and she goes, "This old guy over there just pinched my ass." And Pam says, "Why did he pinch mine?"
Alex, Susan in Italy. And Susan had a great body. I mean, she was beautiful. Beautiful?
Was it Susan? No, I think it was Ronnie that it happened.
No, I think it was Susan. And she had a body that killed. And I remember the story that you said her ass hurt.
No, I'm talking about it was Ronnie that it happened to. We were in Italy, and she had to go into the railroad station because she wanted to mail a letter.
Yeah.
And she went, and I waited in the car, and she comes back, and she gets in the car, and she goes, "God, is my ass hurting?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "I walked through. It's like it was like a gauntlet. I walked from one end of the station to the other, and they kept pinching my ass."
I wonder if they still do that today.
Huh?
Well,
it's interesting.
For that?
I wonder if they still do that today. There's no Me Too movement there.
My grandfather used to pinch my cheek when I was younger, but I hit
that in my family.
Now, on the other hand, when I was in Europe with Schmoody, nobody ever pinched her ass because if they did, she would have decked them. This is a woman I went with.
No, I had a lot of guys come up to me and say, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch."
Did they really? Well, you look. Yeah, you look Germanic.
Oh, really?
Well, to begin with, she was the opposite of every woman I ever considered my type. Okay, she was tall. I like them short. She was blonde. I like them brunette. And yet we had a great relationship.
Yep.
But
all your girlfriends hated me.
Yeah, why was that?
I don't know.
You were always.
Well, I guess because I was the one. So I felt kind of bad for you, like around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
You'd have to take him out to lunch or whatever, but I was the one that got the evening.
That's right.
When you'd go away, who took care of the apartment? I did.
Right.
Who drove the cars? I did.
Right. And
it was probably more of a trust thing. You knew I was with you because of you, not because you were Alex Bennett. Once I got to know you, you knew for a fact that I was a solid person that was there for you.
I was always very suspicious of women who would come on to me because I was saying to myself, are they coming on to me because they find me attractive, or are they coming on to me because of who I am? And I always trusted you that way. I never felt that I had to worry about you saying, "Hey, guess who I'm going out with?"
Nope. And there were a lot of people that had no idea on my end that I remember we were live in San Ramon, and so you do your gig, and then it would go to commercial, and you'd come straight to me, and we'd talk and stuff, and then it was time to go back on the air, you'd go back on the air. Well, like about the third time, there were a bunch of UPS drivers from San Ramon that were there. And so you go back on stage, and they come to me, and they go, "Kath, are you the Kathleen?" And I said, "Yes." Shh. And they were like, "Holy crap."
Holy crap. Yeah. But
and I'd get people ask me, how can you stand to be around him? He's such an a-hole, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, do you realize his job is to entertain? So when you hear Alex Bennett, and I go, and that's not even his name, he's entertaining. That's what he gets paid to do. I said, the person I'm with is totally different.
And that's true.
And some people cannot separate the star from the person, the human.
Yeah, and I was one of them that couldn't. But anyway.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Have you met that other guy?
What? Have I met that?
Have you met that other guy?
Well, I used to, actually, I sometimes, in the early days, I used to refer to my on-air persona as that guy.
That guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Said.
But after a while, you kind of become that person, but, you know, maybe a nicer version of them. Yeah. But I didn't really play the asshole on the radio, did I, Phil?
No, you had a persona, and that's not who you were. But the strange thing was, I've known you for a long time, and when I met you in New York, it was a very short meeting. But I always called you Alex, and I'm over at your place in Sausalito, and I call you Alex, and this is when we first, maybe in 1980, and Susan says, well, his friends call him Ben. And then, I just kept calling you Alex. And then eventually you said, well, maybe I'll just call myself Alex.
Well, no, something. You know who came up with the best way of referring to me? Was Ronnie. She used to refer to me as Bennett.
Yeah.
So that when we were in a group of people, if it was like relatives, and she said Bennett, it was Bennett. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
But if
that's your name.
But if we were in a room full of people that knew me professionally, she was calling me lovably by my last name. So Bennett did this and Bennett did that. So she found the way to do it. She finessed the whole thing very nicely.
But your first name is Bennett.
Yes. So I mean, you could use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
And actually, you even hid your personality. You wore a hat, you wore glasses. You didn't want people to know what you looked like, and you were pretty anonymous when you first came to San Francisco.
Yeah. By the way, we have another death today. Yesterday we had 3 deaths in one day of famous people: Daryl Dragon, Bob Einstein. And who's the other one I'm thinking of? Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah.
The WW, what was then the WWF and is now the WWE. Do you know why they changed it from the WWF? They were sued.
The World something Federation.
They were sued by the World Wildlife
Federation.
Yeah, but they were sued by the World Wildlife Federation. And they won, so they changed it to WWE. Anyway, he died.
Who else died yesterday?
They all died at 76. Yeah. What?
They were all the same age, yeah.
Yeah, all the same age.
Ed Bear, WMCA.
Yeah, Ed Bear. Ed Bear from WMCA died.
He died. Now, I don't think I knew Ed Bear.
He was a weekender. He was a weekender at WMCA.
Yeah.
They went on to CBS FM and then he was a long time, I think, at WHUD.
He had to be older than me, though.
Ed Bear, how old was he?
Because I was pretty young when I was working at WMCA. In fact, I think
he was 82.
In those days, I was 29 and the youngest person working on the air in New York, if you can believe that.
So you're 79. Ed was... what, 4 years, 3 years, no, 4 years, no, 3 years, 82. So he was 3 years older than you.
Wow. Son of a bitch. Well, anyway, so we got another death. This guy, most of you never heard of. His name was Herb Ellis. He was an actor, and he created a series with Jack Webb called Dragnet.
Oh.
And he died in San Gabriel, California. He was 97. Dragnet premiered in 1952 following an airing of a pilot in late 1951. Ellis appeared opposite Webb in the early episodes of the series, including playing Officer Frank Smith, until Ben Alexander took over the role. I think Ben Alexander didn't take over the role till it went to television, because it was a radio show, I think, before it was a television show. In addition to
Ed Bear was 82.
Okay. In addition to Dragnet, Ellis appeared on various other radio and TV series, including Dangerous Assignment, Escape, Tales of the Texas Rangers, and The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe. But he was around. He was one of the guys who created Dragnet, and yet you always think that that Jack Webb was the sole creator of that, because I think Webb kind of did what do you call it? The reframing of history, and that's a Dragnet.
It's the DVD set.
Now, which run is that? Is that the original?
That's
in black
the original Dragnet with
the original.
God, what was his name?
Jack
He
Webb.
just said it.
Jack
Webb.
Webb. Jack Webb.
No.
Jack Webb, yeah.
Right, and they were in black and white, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
That was a Desi Lou production.
No,
it
was
wasn't.
No?
Mark Seven.
it was.
It was a
I
Mark
thought it
Seven
was.
production. Now, you remember the hand with the
Yeah.
anvil?
I used to
thing.
love the Dragnet TV show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when it hit the hammer comes at the end of the show.
I had a love-hate relationship with the Dragnet shows. I love the original run, the black and white run. He brought a whole new style to television drama and so on and so forth. When you get to the color ones, they start becoming very campy and very funny. I mean, nobody loves more than to sit around and watch the Blue Boy episode of Dragnet where the guy is on LSD. And it is just, the whole thing is so campy and so naive.
Was that the same producer that did Sea Hunt? Zev?
No. Dragnet was Jack Webb.
No. Zev. Who's the producer?
That was Ziv TV. They did a whole bunch of other shows, but
Ziv. I think also did.
No, they did not.
They did the Bridges. No.
They did Sea Hunt, but they didn't do Dragnet.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Jeff.
I always loved the radio version. I thought those were the best. I don't know why, but
Well, if you go back to San Francisco radio, the precursor to Dragnet was a show that Jack Webb did in San Francisco called Pat Novak for Hire.
yes, I think I heard it once or twice.
Yeah, and they did the same kind of way of natural speaking, I guess, was the best way you could.
That
Wasn't
kind
there a
of
Highway Patrol also?
He gave you words.
Highway Patrol was Broderick Crawford.
Broderick Crawford, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm old.
Join the club.
Yeah, but you're not that old. You were probably not born yet when Broderick Crawford came out in Highway Patrol.
No,
Sure I was. I watched it on
seen Hawaii
TV.
Patrol. Yeah, it might have been reruns though for me.
Yeah.
Well, you know what my son is watching right now is he's watching the old Twilight Zone.
Oh, there was. I watched it
I've
New
got
Year's. I
Love
watched
those.
the day of it on Sci-Fi Channel. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, my son loves all the old shows. He watched a bunch of the old Dennis the Menace from 1999.
Here's my favorite. To Serve People is a cookbook.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were.
I'm working for a customer right now with the last name of Wilson, and I'm dying to go, hey, Mr. Wilson.
Just hit it with the old great Scott.
Well, how old's your kid now?
He just turned 13
Wow. Gonna have him bar
in
mitzvah?
November.
You gonna have him bar mitzvah?
And almost as tall as I am.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Because you were no shorty.
Yeah, I started taking him to the gym.
How tall were you? I forget now. You were 6, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
Yep.
Yeah, get a
Because my dad was 6'5".
Yeah. Your dad was tall, wasn't he? I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, my real dad. And then my stepdad's like 6'2".
Wow. So you come from a tall family. What can I say?
Yep.
You know? Anyway.
Except that his shoe size went from a 10.5 to a 13 over the summer. 13 quadruple E.
Was he got
Really?
water retention?
No. But I told him if we ever lose the brakes on the car, just open the door and put your feet out.
Now, last night, the name came up on this program, and so an item came through today about it. And the name was Pamela Adlon. Now, if you don't know that name, she's the star of a show called Better Things, which I think is a wonderful show. But it was produced by Louis C.K., and many of the episodes directed by Louis C.K. and written by Louis C.K. and Pamela Adlon. She was
on Louis C.K.'s show.
Huh? What?
She was on his TV show.
Yeah, she was also on the show. But now he's no longer the producer of the show, and she threw him to the wolves. And but she kept her deal over at FX, so she's going into her third season, and she's got as guests on the show Matthew Broderick and Sharon Stone. And let's see, anybody else that's very famous? Doug Jones, who I don't know if you're familiar with Doug Jones. If I told you he was the monster in The Shape of Water, then you would say, oh, that's Doug Jones? You know, he always plays people that you'll never recognize him because he's always playing people, always wearing masks, and he's on the new Star Trek Discovery too. Again, completely covered, face completely covered, but he's got this weird body that's very, very strange. But anyway, that's some of the little news items that I have. Let's talk about what is just getting to be silly stuff. And that, of course, is...
Pelosi.
Huh?
Pelosi.
What about Pelosi?
Well, she's Speaker of the House now.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's talking silly stuff.
Wait.
Hey, one more facelift, she'll have a beard.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you know, come on. You got that from me.
That's funny.
Anyway, no, but forget about the whole Pelosi factor. Just this whole government shutdown. I mean, over what? You won't give me my wall. You won't give me my wall. What were you holding up there, Jeff?
A gavel.
A gavel. Oh, okay. You won't give me my wall. I'm going to hold my breath till you give me my wall.
I think he should.
I hope he does. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, he promised, he made promises when he campaigned.
He promised Mexico would pay for it.
Well, right. You know, they will. He'll send them a bill.
Yeah, I mean, he made a lot of promises like that Mexico was going to pay for the bill, and he so ingrained that in our minds, he would at the rallies go, and we're going to build the wall, who's going to pay for it? And the audience would yell out, they will, or Mexico. And now he says he wants us to pay for it. Wait a minute, what is this? When did we suddenly get the bill? Isn't it supposed to be going south?
Yeah, isn't it as big a part of the promise?
Yeah.
Was the promise that America wasn't going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still think that, you know, America gave Mexico and Guatemala and a couple of other countries, I think they gave them $10 billion. And I have a feeling that some of that's going to go back to pay for the wall.
Well, then let that happen.
Yeah, there's some underhanded deal.
No,
you know?
There's no deal. He wants us to give him $5 billion.
Well, you know,
and we gave him 1.8, I think, during the last year, and he never used it.
Yeah, well, you know, how do you think they're going to have those shovel-ready jobs out there? You know,
well, I mean, this whole day, his whole approach to this thing is shovel ready.
He just wants a couple of no-show jobs.
Yeah,
really.
he you know what's funny is he thinks all of this is like when he was running real estate.
Yeah,
you know, and that every deal he's making is like a real estate deal, and I'm sorry, you're not dealing with a bunch of real estate people. You're dealing with the Congress, for crying out loud. You know?
Originally he wanted $45 billion to build this wall. Now he's found other ways of constructing it where he can do it for a lot less money. the
So
steel.
that's a deal for Mexico.
Well, it's like Pelosi said.
only
He's
need
he
$5
settled.
billion from Mexico.
He settled for beaded
promised.
curtains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the Chinese will take some of that steel they can't sell us because of the tariffs, and they'll build a wall.
Yeah.
Steel and recycled bottles sounds swell.
It's so wasted money. It's not going to work.
They use the recycled bottles instead of Constantina wire. They break the glass and they glue it to the top of the wall.
Yeah.
It makes it tough to get over.
Yeah, but it's just this whole thing is getting laughable. And then the latest press conferences and the speeches he's making are just getting ridiculous. That what did he say about Mattis?
Oh yeah, what did he say?
He wouldn't do something he wanted him to do or something.
Well, your gal Warren Pocahontas.
Oh, what do you mean, my gal?
She's agreeing. She's agreeing with Trump over the pullout in Syria.
I agree with Trump on pulling out Syria.
Well, I do too. We weren't supposed to be there, and all these years we've been getting into these issues with all these other countries, whether it was Vietnam or at least we weren't in Grenada. Oh yeah, I guess we were. And Panama. It doesn't matter. And here he's keeping his promise, saying, "Hey, I didn't want to be in that war. I just wanted to go after ISIS." And now he wants to pull his 2,000 troops out. And everybody's up in arms. This is what we wanted since 1968. What do you mean since 1968?
But he went up when Obama pulled out. He criticized him for the same thing he's doing.
No, he criticized Obama for putting a red line in the sand and then not sticking up to it. See, Obama said that if they did.
He said
he criticized him for pulling out.
He made Obama the creator of ISIS.
Yeah, he
pulling
did
out.
say that. Yeah,
was that over Iraq?
For pulling out,
because what Obama
exactly
did was
what he's doing.
Not necessarily, because he had a mission.
Because it's Trump.
No, he had a mission in Syria, and the mission was to eradicate ISIS and keep them.
And we all know ISIS is not gone. His best intelligence folks tell him ISIS is underground, but they're not gone. If you pull out, what is the vacuum going to create?
But he said he's not pulling out immediately. That they're going to finish the job. But
that's not what he said. He wanted to pull out
what
immediately.
he said after he met with what's his name, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham.
So why did Mattis quit? He quit over that.
Well, we think he quit over that. That might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But
I'm sure it was. He's dealing with a megalomaniac.
All right. So but I think he and Mattis he had not seen eye to eye with many of his advisors. And
but let's face it, Phil, he lives in this delusionary world in which, like, for instance, one statement he made was, and the American public agrees with this shutdown.
A lot of them do.
Yeah,
no, a lot of them do, but not enough to make it a majority of people agree with him.
Not even close to a majority.
That's okay. It's the
close to a majority doesn't want the wall either.
Yeah,
that's what I hear from the people that don't want the wall. But hey, we'll see in 2020. We'll see if that's what they want or if it's not what they want. They'll have a chance to vote him out.
Yeah, and we'll see.
But
it depends on who it depends upon who the Democrats put up. Now, when you talk about Elizabeth Warren, she can beat the shit out of Trump. And no, I don't.
With her
think
tomahawk,
I don't think so.
I think Trump's not going to be able to run in 2020.
We're about.
He won't be in jail, but his reputation will be completely destroyed.
We're a month, maybe 2 months away from the Mueller report.
Yeah,
and that is not going to be good.
No,
it's not going to be good.
You're jumping to conclusions.
The
same way you do with me too.
Phil, we have everybody around him going to prison. He's not
These
affected?
guys, but they're going to prison for things that they did years before they were involved with Trump. You know, because what's his name was involved with the Russians. Roger Stone was a partner of Manafort. You know, these guys were all.
These are all his. Yeah, this is his circle. These
are the people he
He was
trusted.
there for 3 months.
No, Manafort was with Trump long before he came into that.
He ran the campaign for 3 months.
No, but
and
he was
before that.
And before that, he had a relationship with Trump, a business relationship. He was involved in Trump's
Well, that's what the guy did.
Follow the money with Trump. It's going to go back to Moscow.
All right, we'll see.
Maybe Mattis might have seen the writing on the wall and say, listen, I'm going to quit because in a couple of months, I don't want to be associated with this whole regime.
Well, then
I got to get out of here before the ship goes down.
I think Mattis is to begin with, he's known as a very principled guy. And he probably saw that his principles were just being thrown out the window. And he could not be associated with it any longer.
Yeah.
You know, you hired me to be your Secretary of Defense. Now allow me to make those decisions for you. Otherwise, you know, I don't want to be part of this. And I don't want to be part of this when it falls apart. I mean,
Does the Secretary of Defense make decisions,
you look at that
or
White
does
House.
he make recommendations?
He makes recommendations, and many times,
nobody
if you're
makes decisions in Trump's White House.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. I'm
no,
talking
what
about
would happen is if say you were Obama, and you know that you don't know as much about the military as the guy you hired to be your Secretary of Defense. What you do is he advises you on what the best course of action would be to take, and you usually take his advice because that's why you brought him into the room. Okay.
But
Trump said he knew more than the
right?
generals.
There you go. He knows more about fill in the blank than anybody else. Fill in the blank.
Yeah, you're going to tell me this guy who went to a military academy knows how to run an army?
Yeah, he had bone spurs in his feet. He couldn't get in the military.
Yeah,
but he wanted to.
Temporary bone spurs.
Yeah. He seems to be walking he seems to be walking okay or waddling okay.
It's because he had tiny hands, tiny hands.
Yeah.
He's got small pee-pee too,
Ooh. Don't show us yours.
Yeah.
Trump's the one whipping it out. That would be funny. Before he resigns, he whips his penis out. That would be great.
Yeah.
My God, it's small.
Well, listen, here's a guy who groped somebody. He said he could grope somebody.
Yeah, you're right. He did.
He admitted
He
it.
could shoot somebody.
Billy Bush, he told.
Yeah.
Because he was popping Tic Tacs. Remember?
By the way,
the shoot thing was a supposition. The grope thing was, I just do this because I'm famous.
I think he said, because I'm famous, you could.
I just go up.
No, he
and
said
grab
he
them.
did it, and he got away
You
with it.
could grab them by the.
No, I don't think he said could.
I grab them by. I just go up to him and grab him by the pussy.
That's what he said.
That's what he said, Phil.
Let me
Phil,
see if I can find
You don't want to find it, Phil, because you're going to be disappointed.
Go ahead.
Well,
go find it.
Go find it.
Meanwhile, the adults in the room will talk. It's Adult Swim now. Oh, by the way.
Yes.
We're babysitting this cat. Okay? And I got to tell you, this cat is the most precocious animal that I've ever met in my life. To begin with, you know what the cat's favorite room is to sleep in? The guest room.
Oh, he's got his own
Because
room.
she knows she's a guest. But last night I'm in the bathroom and I've got the door closed, and all of a sudden I hear this clatter going on outside, and I don't know what's happening. I'm thinking maybe it's the radiators are exploding or something, and there's this boom, boom, boom. And I open up the door and there's the cat. The cat was knocking to get in.
Oh, it's nice. You know they're going to sleep.
Polite.
Cat's amazing. Just amazing.
Is that the kitty that's sleeping on the bed with Marjorie?
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
So this is the adult talk? My kitty?
Wink, wink.
Well,
grabbed him by the kitty.
have you found out what he said?
That's what he said.
Have you found it?
I'm looking at a New York Times article, and it's reading it on the phone is a little slow.
Yeah.
But I'll get there.
Well, reading is something that most Trump people have a hard time with. So, just,
these pictures with balloons like coming.
yeah. I think that right now it's not a good time for Trump, because now that he doesn't have the Congress on his side, and now that they have the subpoena power, this is not going to be a pleasant time for him.
Yeah.
And he knows it as well.
His taxes are going to come out because Congress can subpoena his tax returns.
Yeah. They'll
We'll know where the money came from.
Yeah, they'll subpoena his tax returns, and they can fight it for a while, but it's not gonna last. I notice you haven't left Texas yet, Charlie, because you've got in back of you there's some kind of thing with a picture of Texas on it.
I'm still a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Your boys are playing Saturday night.
Yep, Saturday night.
It's gonna be a toughie. Seattle looks tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Seattle, but they're playing in Texas.
Yeah,
You
but
should get the flags.
now you've got the
really
Texas Cowboy cheerleaders. Is that sexist?
Yeah, there was I read an article about that recently that they're saying within the next 5 to 10 years there'll be no more cheerleaders.
Really?
Because lots of teams are getting rid of them because of the sexist connotation, of what they are. It's disappearing.
Well,
so stupid.
well,
It is stupid, but that's the world we live in today.
They're gonna have the men doing the cheerleading soon. It's gonna be crazy.
All right. So
This whole
Well,
world-
okay.
here you guys,
Here-
I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them, Mr. Trump said.
Here it is.
it just
It's
starts
like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Quote, grab them by the pussy. You
And
can
they kill
do
his face.
anything, unquote.
Look at this guy.
Well, that's man speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He walks around with mirrors on his shoes,
There you
probably.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't even ask permission to kiss them. You just kiss
Don't
them.
bring it in.
Just
But
do it.
you're taking this when he did that. That was in 2003, I think. And we didn't have the Me Too movement. We didn't have these things. We had the casting couch, and it was
Yeah, well, I got to
almost an
tell you, Phil,
accepted way of doing business in your industry.
I had a certain amount of notoriety and fame, and I can't say I ever took that opportunity with my notoriety and fame to grab somebody by the pussy.
Well, that's because you weren't Donald Trump. I mean, you were a radio guy, but you had offers. I mean, there were people. I remember you getting things in the mail, picture of a gal, that wanted to have sex. You know who I'm talking about. And do you think it's because you were not a celebrity?
Yeah, but I didn't grab them by the pussy.
Well, this one you did. After a while.
I mean, after I
How
was.
many women were coming out trying to, as part of the beginning of this Me Too movement against the advances that Donald Trump made? Those weren't all accepted and, agreed upon, grab them by the pussies or kiss them.
When I answered the phones at Camel for Alex, I had women calling and they wanted to meet me. And Alex specifically said, I'm not going to make you a character that is sought by women, because he wanted them all for himself.
That's correct. Wait a minute. Now, Schmoody, tell them how you met me. How we hooked up.
Alex was having a contest. He was looking for a wife, and I wrote in a letter.
Uh-huh.
And he read the letter over the air, and I happened to be on a surveillance, and we were listening to the Alex Bennett show. And so he reads the letter, and he says, Kathleen, if you're out there, call. And the best thing was the look on my partner's faces, because I turned to them and I go, hey, Chris Warren, you're going to have to go into Warren's car. And they're like, what? And I go, that's my letter he read. I need to call the station. I remember my partner, Chris Snyder, almost having a coronary.
Were you a
She
PI?
couldn't believe it.
Were you a PI?
I was doing security work for UPS. We ended up busting a couple people in another building.
Oh,
And so my friends went into the other car, and I called up the station, and they go, "How do we know this is you?" And I said, "Big Hooters and Hooters Baby are all capitalized. Bingo, my letter." That's how we met.
All right. Yeah, that's how we met. Yeah.
So, it was Match.com on the radio.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And it lasted. How long did we actually go together? About a year and a half, something like that? Or was it longer?
Let's see. We probably went together for like 2 years, but we were together basically until you left in 2003. So
Yeah.
from October 96 till you left in 2003.
Well, that's how long we knew each other. But I mean, actually going with each
Yeah.
other, I think was only a
It was
couple
like
of years.
a year and a half, 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. You were with me when I lost my job at Live 105. And,
Oh, yeah.
And we
Yep.
immediately left town and went to Vegas to get away from the press.
Yeah, and I remember your smarmy bodyguard was trying to get me to come work for him. Oh, fuck off.
Was his bodyguard armed?
Yes.
So therefore you like guns when when you want them, huh?
Well, the reason he had a gun was because we would do shows.
He had a small penis?
No, we would do these. Shows, these comedy shows. And after we did the comedy shows, we would always get paid in cash. And the reason we got paid in cash is because that's what came in through the box office. Credit cards weren't promiscuously used in those days. And so they would pay us off in cash based on the crowd that we had. And so we would have this big wad of money, and somebody had to take that and put it in the bank, go down and, you had the night deposit. You remember the night deposit? You right?
Yeah, you night deposit cash?
Yeah, sure.
Oh.
Sure. But he had to go take it down, and he had the gun, so that in case somebody tried to rob him, he could.
So you didn't just put it on the bed and roll around nude over the money? Come on.
Well, we always did that immediately after a show, Kathleen and I, and then we put the money
Then you
together.
put it in the bank.
Then we put it in the bank, once it smelled of stank. So that's why I had a bodyguard. I never, however, had the bodyguard look like he was with me. Because I felt that having a bodyguard and making it look like you had a bodyguard caused more problems than it helped. Yeah. Because people
you only had one. Huh?
Because then people would challenge it. So he would always walk behind me. And it didn't look like he was with me. Am I right, Kathleen? Didn't I do it that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that.
And I mean, really, who's going to come at you if I'm standing next to you?
Yeah, forget it. She could take anybody in the room. Huh?
Jeff has some whipped cream on his nose, I think.
Jeff has whipped cream on his nose? Where'd you get the whipped cream?
You're muted, Jeff.
Jeff, where'd you get the whipped cream?
He's muted.
You're muted. You're muted.
It's not whipped cream.
Oh.
It's I had a bloody nose today.
Oh.
Oh,
Your wife hit you again?
Yeah.
You maybe need Alex's bodyguard.
That's right.
And so
I'm flying out.
Yeah, so you had to put a tissue in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So anyway, we got this whole new Congress coming in. And I hope that they do us proud, that they don't act like assholes. We should not be assholes just because the last people who owned the apartment were assholes. And we should do right by them.
There were 102 women in the new Congress?
Really, that many?
Yeah. So what's that, 20%?
Yeah.
Just about.
Well, it's getting there,
That include the senators or
no, in the House.
in the House? It's only 435 House members, so that's a quarter.
Quarter, yeah.
A quarter of what?
Of the
A
House.
quarter of them are broad.
A quarter of them are broad, says Kathleen.
Or dames.
Dames, yeah, you got
Yep,
them.
James.
The chicks. The chicks.
And some of them are babes.
That's right.
That
And,
too. That too. So, what did you do over the vacation, Rob?
Just went to New York for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Just for the eve and Christmas Day. Came back the day after, and then a whole lot of nothing. Just a whole lot of relaxing.
Did you do anything on New Year's Eve, or did you just stay home?
Yeah, the neighbors had a party up the street, and like we did last year, went up the street.
Yeah.
My wife had my wife is she had to be at work at 4:30 in the morning on New Year's Day, so kind of sucked.
Wow.
So,
what does she do again?
Yeah.
What's she doing now?
She is a dialysis tech.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and they got to do dialysis on any day.
Every day, yeah.
Every day. Well, they're not open on Sunday, but they're open 6 days a week. And the good thing about the job, it's only 3 days a week, but you work insane hours for those 3 days.
That must suck to have kidney problems, you know?
Oh, I you know what? I can't imagine having to report 5 days a week to a building and sit there for, 4 hours that you sit there in that machine you're plugged into that, that's what they do.
Yes, Jeff.
My father was one of those guys.
Oh,
really?
For how many years?
I think he survived 6 years.
Wow.
Is it a death sentence, or can you go on indefinitely?
It depends upon the patient and what's going on with your blood and stuff like that.
If you get a kidney transplant,
she tells me that there are guys in their 30s and 40s there.
Wow.
Yeah. There's certain people that can last for a long, long time, and there's others that can't. And especially with my dad, it was 6 years, I should say. And he used to go 3 days a week.
Wow.
And sometimes at the beginning, it was only like 2 hours. And then after a while, it was 3 hours. And then after that, it was 4 hours, and it was.
But he felt better, didn't he?
No, not really. He was exhausted.
Yeah, that's what she said there. It's exhausting. You're tired.
Well, I guess the solution to it is a kidney transplant, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a long waiting list.
Right.
Really? Well, actually, my kidneys are not. My kidneys are okay, but they're cystic, which is, as I was told by my urologist, is no big deal. But nevertheless, I don't know if I would would qualify as a kidney donor.
Now, you went for the PSA test on Monday?
No. That's next Monday.
Oh, it's next Monday.
But they're also doing a free. He's also has on their free PSA as well.
What's a free PSA? That doesn't cost as much?
It doesn't cost as much. No. What it is, you get a PSA test. Okay. Yeah. Then they do a free PSA. If it's really low percentage, it's bad. If it's a high percentage, like more than 25%, you probably don't have cancer. What they do is, if you're like getting into the 3s or sometimes 4+, in order to make sure that you either have a chance of cancer or don't have a chance of cancer before they do any kind of biopsy, they do the free PSA, and I think he's doing it as just a precaution.
You haven't had the MRI biopsy where they stick that probe up there and they look around. It's a thing like the size of a soda can, and I hadn't had one of those. What they did with me is they went in and they snipped, but this other kind of way, this one with the soda can, is supposedly much more accurate, and you don't have the issues afterwards for a month.
Where do they put the soda can?
Up your ass.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Anyway, so I don't know why he ordered up the free PSA, but I think it's probably just to be on the safe side, Yeah. But it would, in a lot of people who might have a high PSA, it many times can rule out the need for a biopsy because it could rule out that you have prostate cancer.
Well, even if you did at your age, I wouldn't do anything about it, unless it's extremely aggressive. And it doesn't sound like from the level of PSA
I don't have any symptoms. What they say about PSA tests is they shouldn't be given to anybody over the age of 70 unless they have symptoms.
Right.
And I don't have any symptoms at all.
Well, why are you doing it?
You have BPH.
Because,
everybody has BPH.
Because my doctor told me to. And I'm telling him this time, if everything's okay, last time. But why he's doing the free PSA that's got me worried. But he said that he looked at it using the sonogram and everything looked fine. He just found some calcium deposits or some kind of deposits on the prostate, which is you get with age sometimes, and that's what could be causing the PSA to go up because it has inflammation around it. But he otherwise he didn't say he didn't see anything.
Hey, I'm looking at a place here online that says free PSA test, $69.
No.
How is that free?
It's not free money.
No, that's a free PSA test.
That's where they use it with a Coke can.
Yeah, really.
Or a 40 ounce.
Well, one of the reasons, also another reason they do it is sometimes you can have a low PSA, but you can have a low PSA but still have prostate cancer. And what the free PSA would do would be to show that up and make it apparent. So I guess a doctor says I'll order up the free PSA while I'm at it, just to make sure you're okay on that end.
Did you hear about that other thing? It's a breathalyzer that can tell whether you have cancer or not.
I've heard something about that. There are also dogs that can smell you and tell whether you have cancer or not.
Yeah. Hey, my dog keeps licking my face. I figure she knows I'm diabetic and I must be sweet.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But so I'm all worried about it. I'm getting been just absolutely beside myself. That's why I'm telling him this time, no, I'm not doing it again. If it's okay this time, I'm not doing it again. I'll come by and see you once every 6 months just so you can get your money, but I'm not taking a fucking PSA test again.
Well, the last thing you want is the biopsy.
Well, I mean, you don't want the biopsy, but if I were to have a biopsy, big fucking deal.
You'll be a big deal.
Yeah. No, he says
you'll be walking around like you're lighting the loafers for about a month.
My mother felt bloated. She said after that.
What after what?
How can she get bloated? She doesn't have a prostate.
She
doesn't have a prostate.
Your mother's a man.
They did biopsy the polyp that was.
No, that's in her ass.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know why she felt bloated. Though. She said they put something in there, and she felt like her stomach expanded. I don't know.
Anyway, the point
is, it was a 40 ounce.
I got to ask.
The point is, my doctor says that I said, I don't really want to get a biopsy. He said, well, the biopsy isn't in the cards right now. And he said, but if we were to do it, he says, I said, I hear it's painful. He says, I put people out. He said,
really?
Yeah.
Okay. It only takes about 3 minutes.
Yeah, but he puts people out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
he pushes you outside after the biopsy.
Yeah.
No, I want to get knocked out too.
Right. So but
Alex, do you use your Mickey Mouse watch to test your heart?
Yeah, you know what? I had my watch in the other room. I didn't put it on tonight to test my heart. Yeah, I did not an AKG. It's the other thing.
EKG.
Yeah, I did an EKG with it. I'm fine. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, what you do is you go onto the phone, and you push start for the test, and then you touch the what do you call it? The stem.
The stem.
And just hold it for about 30 seconds, and then it comes back and tells you whether you have any fibrillation or anything like that. It's not a complete, EKG where they do all kinds of stuff and you got a graph and so on. But supposedly, I think you can make a copy of the test you just gave yourself and send it to your doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't talk like Mickey Mouse. Oh, you're gonna die.
Well, I wish I had my watch here. I'd let you hear Mickey Mouse talk. But
that's terrible.
Fortunately, I guess I put the watch in the other room when I started it up. So, but Mickey talks to me. The problem is sometimes at night I'm about to go to sleep, and I accidentally hit the watch, and Mickey goes, "It's 2:05," and I'm trying to muffle it because I don't want to wake girlfriend up, you know. Yeah. So, whatever. Anyway, what else? We got about 10 minutes here. Anybody got anything they want to bring up? Phil?
I've been talking all night. Give somebody else a shot.
Charlie, anything you want to bring up?
Well, I'm kind of mad at the Democrats for trying to propose this pay-go thing in the House. They're going to hamstring themselves before they even get started.
What's pay-go?
Well, it's supposedly a resolution where you cannot have any new program that costs money unless you either have a reduction in some other program or you have new taxes. So you can't you can't increase the deficit with a new program, you know.
Wow.
Well, that's very anti-democrat.
Well, did you hear today?
There isn't a program that
Republicans wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Did you hear today that the Trump has raised the deficit by $2 trillion?
Yeah.
In just 2 years.
Yeah.
$2 trillion.
You know.
Well, the big tax cut.
Well, how do you? I want to hear Phil's excuse for that.
Well, you have to prime the pump, you know, and we had an economy that was in the malaise, 1% GDP, and then the previous quarter we had a 4%. This one was 3%.
To begin with, we had $2 trillion more in our pocket. And secondly, and most importantly, the stock market was okay.
Well, the stock market really, went up, and there's ups and downs.
No, the stock market has tanked. It has
if
tanked.
you're going to gamble,
No,
don't
say that, Phil. Don't say that, Phil,
down.
because your boy says, "Look how great the stock market is under me," and now we don't hear a word from him.
Well, it is great, and it still is.
The stock market is great?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Under what?
23,000?
Which world of sci-fi are you living in?
Huh? Yeah,
it was falsely raised like the 4% and the 3% by ridiculous tax cuts, which, by the way, are going to expire on us in a few years.
Yeah. Well, the thing is also, look at Apple. Apple just took an 8% hit on their stock, and that was one of the main reasons that the stock market had gone down.
Went down today. Today, Phil. It's the reason it went down today. What about all the other weeks that it's been going down?
Well, I'm just talking about today. I said.
And what? By the way, why did what did Tim Cook say was the reason why?
Soft tariffs.
The China tariffs.
That means that the tariffs are working. The tariffs are working.
Real well.
They're working.
Real well.
Yeah. We know that.
They'll come to the table. Now, I understand that there was.
They're not coming to any table, Phil. What table are they coming to?
Yes, they will.
You mean just like Kim Jong-un was going to come to the table?
Yeah,
he wants a second sit down.
How's that going for him?
Yeah, Kim Jong-un wants a second sit down.
Yeah, he wants a second sit down.
Yeah, well,
believe anything he says. He's just him and Trump are like butt
and what's going on between the North and the South right now? Opening up the train lines and opening up all this discussion, and guys jumping across the DMZ. This stuff hasn't happened in 70 years. And it's an opening. We started our negotiations with China over a ping pong match.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that is true.
That is true.
Yep.
You know why the Chinese changed the way they did business? Because they found out that they could play the game better than we do.
No, they had a free ride. They were given a special status. Now
that's the reason why. You don't think they don't even need business from the United States now. Do you know how big India is? It's bigger than the United States.
Yeah, you ever been to India?
Yeah, but the Chinese like doing business with India.
Well,
and India does business with them.
Chinese, they'll do business with anybody. But they're doing business.
Who will do business with anybody?
We're so afraid of global warming. It's the Chinese that are polluting everything.
And,
we're not polluting.
And it's the Chinese who are looking for ways to solve the problem and to make money out of it.
They don't give a shit about the problem.
Oh, yes, they do. They're looking for ways to make money out of cleaner air and anti-pollution programs and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
they've gone into the whole solar business, windmills, the whole thing.
Yeah, stealing our technology.
What do you mean? The wind is our technology?
No, but
solar panels, the sun.
And, they've been stealing. Our proprietary technology for years.
Phil,
and they have no respect for our patents. They have no respect for anything that our intellectual property.
Well, that is true. I agree with you there.
Yeah,
but you're off on a lot of
Well,
on a lot
Trump,
of
Trump is standing up to them for the egregious things that they've been doing, they're spying on us to steal our intellectual property. So you're worried about the Russians? I don't think the Russians are a problem. That's a smokescreen. It's the Chinese.
I agree. I have a group of my friends and I are not buying anything sourced or made in China.
Good luck.
And
with
we've actually done we've done our background and we've found sustainable companies within the U.S.
What kind of stuff?
And that's the ones we're talking about. Clothes,
sneakers. You can probably do.
Electronics, and there's so many things that are made in China.
What kind of?
Well, the electronic, I'm one of those people. I'll use my electronics until they die. I'm not, I have friends. The next Apple phone that comes out, they have to have it. I mean, just the waste of money on that.
Not in China. They're not buying Apple phones. And you know what? Apple's behind the 8 ball when it comes to.
You know why
phone.
they're not buying Apple phones is because they cost too much.
Well, I have no Apple anything. Can't stand them.
I like Apple stuff, but I have no desire to get another phone. Unless they come out with a flip phone, like a clamshell phone that I don't butt dial people. Because. If they come up with an Apple phone that folds like the old Nextel, Yeah.
Says the guy who has the iPhone 10.
It's the new StarTAC.
They mail it right to his house.
Well, anyway, there's the theme song, the familiar theme song, and we've just blown another 2 hours of our lives. How is that, huh?
You blew 2 hours. We blew an hour and a half.
Oh, okay. Jeff Stein, thank you for being here. Charlie Wallace, thank you. Phil Meyer, Rob Alfano, and of course our good old friend, what's his name? Tony Magno. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. See him? You can see him. You can see him. You can see him. You can see him. And of course, the wonderful and attractive Schmoody, an ex-girlfriend of mine.
And I'll get Skype all right already.
Get Skype so they can see you, for crying out loud.
Okay, anyway, I will.
Hey, listen, all of you, why don't you give them a big wave goodbye, and I'll wave back to you. There they go, ladies and gentlemen. That's our citizens panel. And that's it for tonight with the citizens panel thing. Let me get rid of them here. Let me get rid of all the callers and get off of the line so that the next program, which is Jack Bishop and the Intersection, can use the Skype lines to talk with you. He'll be here. Hope you'll be joining him as well. In the meantime, that's it for me tonight. I'm through. I will be back again tomorrow after Damian Chaplin and the Exchange at 10 o'clock. Same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye-bye.